Hello, welcome to the Sync Society podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Cobb, and this is our first ever episode. I want to start off by telling you that I took a 3-week burnout break from work when I was 24 years old. I graduated college a year early. I am an eldest daughter, I'm a big sister, and have been in the corporate world for nearly a decade. All of those things led me to start the Sync Society. I've had multiple people ask me, what's the elevator pitch? What's the one-liner? And it can sometimes be hard for me to encapsulate all that the Sync Society means to me and the full vision in a simple statement. But what I will say is the Sync Society is a community for women who are wildly ambitious and desire to be deeply well. The even shorter tagline is ambition aligned. This is for you if any of the things I just shared with you resonated in any capacity. You're most likely somebody who has ambitions, goals, and dreams, and over time has been running towards those things with relentless passion and energy. And you may be at a pivotal moment in your life where you've received a diagnosis, you hit a wall, and that life no longer feels aligned to you. And maybe it's not that big moment where everything around you is changing, but the little things have started to pile up over time and led you to a life that doesn't feel good to you anymore. And quite frankly, can feel exhausting sometimes. I know so many women dealing with burnout, dealing with the repercussions of ambition being taken advantage of and or applied in a context that is just not where our giftings and passions lie. And that totally makes sense. It's exhausting to give 110%, especially when it's misaligned. So many of us are going through different seasons of life, whether that's changing career paths, going back to school, becoming moms, becoming a caretaker, taking care of yourself in a new capacity, or just turning over a new leaf and deciding, hey, I'm tired of hustling for the corner office and running myself ragged along the way. And I want to do right by my body, my mind, and my spirit and align my ambition. So that's really the heart, the ethos, and the mantra behind the Sync Society. And what makes me so excited about it is this is something that I genuinely am passionate about and meaningful to me because of my story and the ways that I've evolved and grown over the past almost decade in the corporate world, how I've navigated that, what that looks like growing as a woman, as a human. And no, I don't have it all figured out, but that's also not the point. So today, I also wanted to share with you what this is going to look like, what you can expect to see, and a little bit more about myself. Throughout the podcast episodes, of course, we'll continue to get acquainted. And if you're someone that already knows me quite well, then hi, thank you for supporting. And if we're new, then I'm excited to be on this journey together. So first, I wanted to share a few stats with you. Senior level women experience significantly higher rates of burnout than their male peers. 60% report frequent burnout versus 50% for men at the same level. This is from a McKinsey study, Women in the Workplace 2025. Women spend 25% more of their lives in poor health or with disabilities than men, often due to a lack of research and support for female-specific biology. This is from the World Economic Forum 2026. And lastly, we are entering the era of over-optimization backlash. High performers are moving away from peak performance metrics and toward nervous system safety and sustainable joy. This is from the Global Wellness Summit 2026. So this to me exemplifies the need for a community like this. Women are consistently underrepresented in research and studies as it relates to overall women's health and well-being. It is reported that somewhere between 10 to 15% of all women are dealing with either PCOS or endometriosis, which are both underrepresented in research as well, and also challenging to bring up in the workplace because female hormonal type disabilities and challenges are often seen as taboo and or can make people uncomfortable. No matter whether it's hormonal imbalance or other chronic conditions, it is really important to have the support in the community to move through that. And it can be really challenging when, on the flip side, there's this leadership gap of women are more often feeling burdened by burnout than their male peers at the same level. It's a really exciting time just thinking of how much the workplace has evolved over the years. It's incredible to see so many women in leadership. There's obviously still room for more. However, what that means is women have grown up and built their careers in systems and structures that were likely more catered to men. And now that we have women who are unique individuals and have distinct needs and things that we carry and go through, it's important to think about if, especially if we are women who desire to be career oriented, whether that is in corporate America, being an entrepreneur, or anything in between, we should expect to look at things differently. And that's okay. To me, having these conversations about what are those differences and nuances? How can we learn from each other? How do we give ourselves the grace to understand that there are those nuances? This is a really hard thing to say as a high achieving woman, but it's okay to admit that sometimes we fall short of taking care of ourselves, raking in the career accolades, to get a promotion at the expense of your sleep, to meet the deadline at the expense of missing a gym session, or to try to build a business at the expense of spending time with family and friends. Sometimes these short-term sacrifices make sense at the time. And I'm not saying don't ever make a sacrifice in order to further your career, but I think it can be a slippery slope where we can make excuses for ourselves and keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And that is what leads to burnout and bad habits that keep us stuck, keep us unwell, and keep us living lives that feel misaligned. And I speak from experience. Like I mentioned, I took a burnout break from work for 3 weeks when I was 24 years old. How did we get there? What did this look like? Both of my parents really wanted to set me up for success. Success in their mind was financial freedom and independence. So go to the good school, get good grades, get a good job, get the promotions as fast as you can, get that job security. And none of these things are inherently bad. But to me, I internalized that these were signs and symbols of my worth, of my identity, and we must get these things at all costs. I didn't really pay mind to, especially when I was younger, not getting enough sleep, not exercising appropriately, downing tons of caffeine. To me, these were all just the sacrifices that needed to be made if I was going to further my career and or get to that career or what have you, depending on the season of life that I was in. So yes, I did get the good grades and I graduated in 3 years. I was hustling out the door, ready to make some money, and started a career in management consulting, which I really enjoyed. I loved solving problems, working on complex engagements, seeing a variety of industries. And as someone who had grown up in the same place, I got exposure to a lot of different cities and people from different backgrounds. And that I feel like was an incredible foundation for the start of my career. So I wouldn't trade it. But consulting is a very high standard, high stakes, intense corporate environment. The people are the assets. And so you want to really make yourself shine and make yourself known. You want to be the one with the highest utilization, which essentially just means how often are you billing hours toward a project, because that means you're in demand, you're making the firm money. It is not uncommon to do a full-time project, business development and proposals for additional projects, and also internal initiatives, which are mostly culture building, employee resource groups, those types of internal initiatives. So your plate is absolutely stacked. You're constantly context switching because of the nature of moving from project to project. You are building a brand. You have the opportunity to meet new people, work with new people. But what comes with that is always being on, always ensuring that you're presenting yourself in a way that is professional, that you're a high achiever, you're dependable, and that you're modeling the gold standard. So in school, you want the A. So you do what you need to do to get the A, which is study, know things, or, write a compelling paper or do the reading, depending on the class that you're in. The threshold is you can get an A. In corporate, the biggest shift for me was there is not a threshold for how much you can give. Any company, depends on where you are, some more than others, any company will be more than happy to take everything you're willing to give. Your time, your energy, your intellect, again, anything that you will provide, because that means that they are getting the best bang for their buck. And so for me, I felt like being indispensable and being the most well known, working the hardest, this was going to help me fly through the ranks, get all the promotions, get the massive bonuses. And to some extent, that's not wrong. And I think that's the hardest part is you will get the great year-end rating. You will get the accolades. It got to a point where I was running so fast on the hamster wheel that I could no longer catch my breath. I essentially got to a point where I just couldn't do it anymore. I felt no motivation. I felt this deep sense of what am I doing this for? And the hardest thing for me at that time was knowing that I was doing it to prove myself worthy. Now, that's not everybody's story, but there's definitely something there where the reason and the rationale behind why am I hustling so hard? Why am I sacrificing the things I am? And it really came to a head for me and ended up being able to take a step away for a few weeks and recover and just spend time. A lot of it was just hanging out on a Tuesday, reading a book, going for a walk, kind of felt like distancing myself from society for a minute. I spent a lot of time with myself, journaling, praying, reading, reflecting, and thinking about what is the life that I want to live and what am I doing right now that is not attributing to and building towards the life that I want to live. A few things were feeling off when I was leading up to this burnout period and actually received a PCOS diagnosis, which, if you're not familiar, is considered it's an endocrine and metabolic and hormonal fun combo condition, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And like I mentioned earlier, it does impact anywhere between 10 to 15% of all women. And we're seeing more and more diagnoses. I don't know if that's because of more knowledge or just actually because of more prevalence of the condition. But there are some risks and challenges that come with that. And I had to take a step back and realize what I'm doing for and to my body right now is not good. I needed to manage and balance my stress levels. I needed to eat protein. I needed to get deep sleep. I needed to do a mix of strength training and cardio and, the whole nine yards. And I was really selling myself short all to run the corporate rat race. And that wasn't feeling fulfilling to me. I would love to tell you that coming out of that experience, I've never felt burnt out a day in my life since then. I've got it all figured out. I can give you the handbook on how to have the perfect balance in life. That is not the case. But what I will say is that experience allowed me for the first time to truly step away, evaluate my life, and think about some small changes I can make over time that, change begets change. We have this momentum now where I am introspective about on a week to week basis. How am I feeling? What are my stress levels like? Can I make some tweaks to take care of myself better? I will say over the years, the health that I've experienced in a multifaceted way across not only the physical, but also emotional, relational, financial, spiritual, all of these different components and dimensions of health have dramatically improved over the past 5 or so years that I've been on this journey, and that journey will continue. I'm really passionate about sharing the things that I've learned. Like I said, there's no handbook here of here's how to live a perfect life, because also it's personal to you. Going forward, what you can expect from the Sync Society is a weekly podcast where we unpack these conversations that women really need to be having. So that'll look like a mix of solo deep dives by me, where I'll be picking up various different topics that we can talk about and debrief together, and also guest episodes with women who are also on the same journey, women who are experts in their field, women that have compelling stories that deserve to be shared. And I'm excited to share those with you as well. We will also be having events. So expect to see the first one likely this fall. More to come. And most importantly, community. Subscribe to the email list so you can be the first to hear about podcast drops, upcoming events, and anything else that the Sync Society is up to. And automatically, by joining the mailing list, you are a member of the society. You get access to additional free resources and information, very intentional communication. So expect to hear from us sparingly and with critical information that you would likely actually love to know. And so much more to come in the future. I'm really excited to see how the Sync Society evolves and expands, and we're just getting started. This was born out of a missing middle that I personally have seen, where there's hustle culture telling you to go, go, go and win at all costs and succeed at all costs. And then there's wellness culture, which tells you to slow down, take a back seat, and potentially even step away from your ambitions. And if neither of those things fully resonate, then you are exactly who I built this for. This is for women who refuse to choose between their ambition and their well-being. We're not going to pretend like it's easy. So if any of this resonated with you, this is for you. And I'm so glad that you're here.